Hi everybody, welcome to Psych Student Reacts. In this series, I react to TikTok videos related to mental health. How this works is I search in the TikTok search bar for various topics related to mental health, and I scroll through the top videos and react to them in real time, and I'll even pause and kind of explain and even give my own 2 cents or experience on the topic. Hey fam, what's up? What's up? I know it's so informal. Anyways, second to last episode of Psych Student Reacts. Episode 11. And this week I decided let's kind of go on to more of a positive note, and let's do self-worth and mental health, like self-worth as it relates to mental health. So I searched self-worth and mental health in the same search engine, same search bar right there at the top of TikTok, and we're gonna see what it brings. But can you believe episode 11? And also, I apologize in advance. It's super windy today, so if you hear any loud roars or anything, it's just the wind. You know, good old Oklahoma stuff. Anyways, let's get started. Oh, I should turn the sound on.
What someone did to you has nothing to do with you. I spent my whole life thinking that my mom and dad abandoned me and chose drugs over me because there was something wrong with me. And then when I got divorced, I spent years thinking that I got divorced because there was something wrong with me, because I wasn't good enough. My whole life, I've always seen people's actions as a reflection of my worth. And the most powerful thing I've learned in this life is that what other people do has nothing to do with you. If someone doesn't respect you, if someone doesn't value you, if someone doesn't choose you, if someone hurts you, it's 99% of the time an internal issue that they're having. So when you're able to see it from that lens, not only can you see it as something that you don't have to take personal, but you can also see it and what they did to you with a little bit of grace, understanding that hurt people hurt people. You have to remember to not take it personal.
Tried to pause it, but you know. Anyways, so this one, it's really, really important, for one. And it's something that eventually everybody comes to realize at some point or another. Most of the time. Not everybody has the ability to be able to sanction their negative thoughts and stuff, and be able to separate what they're internalizing or what they should be internalizing. And what it boils down to is generational trauma. And this is a topic that I feel fairly passionate about, just because I noticed it not only in my own family, but in families that I have influenced or have been influenced by, or families that I have spent time with. You notice as you get to know certain people and throughout their generations of their family, how certain behaviors have been passed down, and then of course there's certain generations, especially younger generations, who make the decision. They notice these patterns and they're like, I'm not doing that anymore. And they go off and they create their new pattern. They are cycle breakers. So, and a lot of the time, it comes down to one of the younger generations having these moments, and they're realizing, whatever happened in their childhood, they've been internalizing that. Whatever happens to them in their relationships in their teenage years and their young adult years, they end up internalizing what happens to them in those relationships. I can personally speak to this in my own experience, and I'm not saying that nobody else has experienced this, and I'm also saying that not everybody has experienced this, but in my own personal experience, I found myself in some really dangerous relationships. I found myself in really toxic relationships. I myself was unrecognizable 6 years ago. Even 5 years ago, even in 2018, especially the first 6 months of 2018, I was still in a downward spiral. And it wasn't until the last time that I almost nearly unalived myself that I realized that I needed to make some personal changes. I had to stop blaming my surroundings. I had to stop internalizing everything that was happening to me. And I had to start building myself from bottom up all over again. Not because I was damaged per se, not because I was the problem, but because I realized that if I had the control, if I took control over my own life and I took control over my own personal choices, then my life would get better. And that's essentially the point that she's making.
So what's going on? I'm tired. I'm tired of giving my all and never being enough. I'm tired of changing for people who don't even recognize my change. I'm tired of crying myself to sleep at night and waking up in the morning and not recognizing myself. I'm tired of not being good enough or pretty enough. I'm tired of not being enough. Brenda, I'm proud of you. But I care about you as a person, so I gotta be real with you. You will continue to lose yourself trying to please someone else. You will never be good enough for a person that isn't good enough for you. And understand, there's no amount of perfection that you can give them that will ever change that. There will always be something that's wrong about you to a person that's not right for you. But the something wrong that they find is nothing but the something right to the heart that's searching for you. You might be too big or too small in their eyes, but you're the perfect size for the heart that's meant to love you. You might be too outgoing or too shy in their eyes, but you got the perfect personality for the heart that's meant to love you. You might be too black, too brown, too white in their eyes, but you're the perfect color for the heart that's meant to love you. Never let how they feel about you change how you feel about yourself. Never let your value be determined by their preferences. You're valuable not because of how someone sees you. You're valuable because that's how you were created to be. How someone treats you is not a reflection of what you deserve. It's not. It's just a reflection of what you're selling for. And I promise you this. You will always see yourself as less. Seeing yourself through the eyes of someone who can care less about you. You will always see yourself as less. Trying to change for a person that would never change for you. You will have to stop giving people the power to control how you feel about yourself. Anybody can love your perfections. That's easy. But the heart that's meant to love you will still love you, even at your most imperfect moments. Brenda, change because you want to, because you want to. Not because someone's opinions, judgments, or preferences force you. Let go of everything that's keeping you from loving yourself. You know what time it is.
Okay, so that's a lot, and it's and it all makes complete sense, and it's all very true. This whole period or this whole spiel is so important, and it's something that I feel like needs to be heard by a lot of people, and even me myself. Like, we all hear these things, and we're all like, you know, in the moment, especially like back in our teenage years, like we hear a lot of these phrases. And we're always like, yeah, no, it's fine. Like, I get it, whatever. And then you grow up more, and then you realize that these, a lot of these sayings that, like, you know, parents or mentors or teachers or anyone might have told you, you're like, wow, no, now I get it. Now I get it. Like, it makes sense. And it goes into the whole thing of self-worth. And we're circling back to our actual topic at hand here, and we're at self-worth. It's not something that just appears. And sometimes we're so caught up seeking the validation of people who aren't actually validating anything. You know, even if they do give us the validation, it's not actually validating anything positively for us. Because people will lie. People will tell you what you want to hear, just so you won't have to keep pressing about it. And also, there's so many situations that everybody could be going through at any given moment. Their own situation, their own struggles, their own low moments, their own bad days. And there's all kinds of different people out there. And they all handle things differently. So trying your best to try to get a positive reaction or a positive validation from somebody isn't really going to be that gratifying, just because, you know, if they're not in the mood to do it, then you're just putting yourself down, and they're not necessarily, they don't know what you're seeking. They don't know why you're seeking validation either. So, you know, there's just so many variables, and it almost becomes tedious to chase that. Why would you want to waste so much energy from an opinion of somebody who isn't going to do anything for you? You know, and this can even go with like professional relationships, business partners, and certain things like that. Is this actually motivating you to go further into this career, or are they just trying to keep you in one place? Why are you bending over backwards for a workplace that's just going to replace you the second that you walk out, or the second that you get fired, or et cetera, et cetera? So, you have to have self-worth, and the best thing is to find it in yourself, to find your self-worth yourself and support that yourself, because then you realize you don't need anything else. The moment I stopped worrying about the validation of others, I regained control of my life. Like, I literally moved to a different state, and that forced me to do it. And I lived one of the happiest parts of my life. Like that, I was healing still. I was still going through like the healing waves, like the healing roller coaster. But during that time that I lived by myself, all of that healing that I ended up doing, it got me to where I am now. I became so much more self-aware of my emotions, how I can properly handle my emotions, how I can do certain practices throughout each day to keep my emotions in check and to put myself onto healthier routines and take better care of my body and my mental health. So that way, not only do I feel good, but I look good to myself. You know, it's to myself. Like, I do these things for me because I want to feel good and I want to feel better. But everybody else's why is different. So that's what it boils down to.
When you're not feeling seen or heard, this triggers you to react in ways that you normally wouldn't in most of your other relationships. For example, if you've already expressed yourself calmly and respectfully 3 or 4 times and you are constantly being dismissed each time, you'll start expressing yourself in other ways with the hopes that this will finally be enough for you to be seen and heard. This usually comes in the form of raising your voice, withdrawal, or visible irritability. You want so badly for them to understand your perspective that you're trying to do whatever you can for them to understand your reality. The truth is, they don't deserve any reaction from you. If they actually respected you in any way, you would never have to convince them repeatedly to see or hear you. When you're not feeling heard,
So, and this is totally unrelated, but for any of my social justice advocates out there, you might have noticed this whenever you are defending women's reproductive health online. And you might have noticed that there's a lot of times whenever you're being very calm and knowledgeable and objective about presenting specific facts, but then here comes good old other side of the spectrum, the political spectrum, and they bring waves and waves of immense hate, and you're just like, okay, I'm over here being calm, and they're trying to elicit a reaction. So this is kind of one of those examples where if they're not going to hear the words that you're saying, it's not even worth getting upset about. Anyways, but this really applies in relationships, in any sort of interpersonal relationship. So it can be, it can be a spouse. If your spouse is literally, if it seems like they're not listening to you, they're not understanding the words that you're saying because they're so engrossed in doing something else, or they're having another conversation, or just something, and you're really trying to get them to understand you, but they're just not. honestly, it's just not even worth getting mad at. And this is something that I learned even in my own relationships. I've been in a few relationships in my life, and I learned because there were certain behaviors that I grew up with, generational, that generational stuff. There's certain things that I had observed as a child that I thought were normal behaviors in a relationship. Like fighting, like arguing, like if something doesn't go your way, then it's my way or the highway. Like, I don't know how many times I heard my parents like throw those phrases around a lot as a child, but it ended up causing me to have like that type of attitude especially in my first marriage. Yes, I was married before. Anyways, I thought that I had everything figured out, as every 17-year-old does at that time. But I was wrong. And after going through that divorce, after losing myself and then finding myself again, I realized that those behaviors were not healthy behaviors. And that if I wanted to have a healthy relationship, I had to understand my self-worth. And I had to learn how to love myself properly. And then the right relationship found me, and here we are. But, same concept.
If you struggle with low self-esteem, you've internalized someone in your life walking out on you, and you have linked it to your value and your worth, which results in you subconsciously thinking that you're not good enough for anyone to stick around. If you struggle with...
So you know what I think about this one, and it's not even necessarily internalizing somebody walking out on you in your life. There's so many different ways that this can actually come up, and I'm going to be really real with everybody right now. I used to speak about my traumas, my past traumas very, very openly. I've quieted down a lot over the years, but that's only because I'm preparing to write a book about myself, like my spiritual awakening, and a lot and trauma plays a huge part of that for me. But I will go ahead and speak about this. So, for me personally, there were probably quite a few different concepts as to why my self-worth and my self-perception were so low by the time that I became an adult. And I think that a large portion of that was that I experienced sexual abuse at the beginning of puberty. Around 10, 11, 12 years old, I experienced, it was really more like 10 and 11. About 10 and 11, I was sexually molested on a regular basis. And on top of that, I was exposed to like dominating personalities. I'm trying to think of forgot what the actual term was, where they're very, I had a father figure who was very extremely overprotective in a way. But that's what I'm just going to go. I'm not going to go any further than that. But because of this, whenever the truth came out, my mother decided to stick up for her husband at that time. She decided to stick by him. Meanwhile, the rest of the family worked their hardest to have my back. Now, something that a lot of people probably didn't know about my mother is that she is definitely undiagnosed. I mean, not undiagnosed as far as like anxiety and depression, but she's definitely undiagnosed with other things that I strongly feel she has. Things that she's very manipulative, and she knows how to manipulate people, at least for a good amount of time before they can figure it out. And that's exactly kind of what happened. So I ended up having to live longer with my abuser until I found an out. And then I went to go live with my dad and my stepmom for about a year and a half. And that I do attribute to a lot of different scenarios that could have gone bad if I would have stayed. So like I'm very thankful for having that out in that time of my life, because that also kind of helped me like get out of a toxic situation that I shouldn't have been in. But my point is that I feel like is where a lot of my dramatically low self-worth and self-perception came from, was from the belief that my own mother couldn't have my back. My own mother wanted to choose her husband over her daughter and her daughter's well-being. And that was a really, really hard pill to swallow for the longest time. It's kind of ironic because I literally couldn't swallow pills for a long time. But it was difficult. It was really difficult. And I wasn't able to actually figure that out until therapy during my adult years. Then it made more sense. Like, but then there were so many other like things that also affected my self-worth and self-perception. But as far as like my childhood trauma goes, I definitely know that played a huge major part in it. So keep in mind that it doesn't necessarily have to be you internalizing the fact, like somebody abandoning you or walking out of your life for your self-worth to be super low. You could have experienced other versions of or forms of trauma that could have caused you to feel that way as well.
So I talk about what true self-worth is and how that's derived from within and not from anything outside of you. But I never talked about how to fully get it. Like, if someone were to ask me a question, the question would be, how do I get my self-worth from within? How do I see my own worth? It's going to take time. I'm going to tell you that. I'm not going to lie. It took losing myself. It took hating myself. Went through a lot of trauma. It took me being...
Pause. Okay, because just because this is a 3-minute video, so I also have a lot to say on this part. That's what I always tell people, is that in order to find yourself, usually, like your true self, like finding your true self-worth, where you truly actually believe it, it doesn't happen usually. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible and that you have to go through like this whole major like rock bottom, build yourself back up phase, but I'm just saying that like that usually will mean that you'll have like the deepest understanding of your self-worth and your self-perception. But again, like I said, not everything is black and white. There's always several gray area, and everyone is different, so we can all experience things and do things differently. Now, I resonate with her story at this point, at least, because for me, my spiritual awakening that I had, which was, I will say, right before my 25th birthday, like I was about 24, and I was almost 25 when I had I started going through the awakening. Like it wasn't like a wake up and oh my God, I know everything. No, it was like it started one day and it carried on for like a whole year. And then I still have like these little awakening moments, even now. But so yeah, like for me, I had to lose myself. I completely lost myself. 2016, 2017, 2018, like I was already gradually losing myself because I wasn't in touch with myself at all. Like I thought that I was in touch with myself throughout, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, but I wasn't. I thought I did. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I was stuck. I was living my own delusion. I was believing my own delusion. I was believing the whole lie that I set up for myself. And that wasn't the case. And I didn't realize that until 2016, 2017, and 2018, whenever my life just hit rock bottom. Like I gave no sort of care ever about my life, about my health, about anything. I just didn't care anymore. And it took me to almost die to realize that I had control and that I had the ability. I could do this. I could make my life what I wanted it to be. I just had to make the choices. I had to decide for myself. Anyways, but I'm sure she's about to go through this.
Being treated like shit. It took me hurting myself to get to where I am. I'm not saying all that shit needs to happen to you for you to see your worth, but I'm just saying, for me, it was bad. I learned it the hard way, and I don't want you guys to learn it the hard way, or even harder than you've already been going at it. The trick is to love yourself and know that you're deserving of everything that you want, even when you're at your lowest, when you make a mistake, when you fuck up, when you feel like a bad person, when you feel guilty. You need to forgive yourself and accept yourself. Without loving yourself or knowing how to love yourself, without knowing who you are, without forgiving yourself, without accepting every single part of you and the past versions of you and accepting her or him, you are not going to fully know your self-worth and your inner power. And this is a journey. I'm still on that journey, but I have come far in that journey. You need to face your past, face your wrongdoings, face your shortcomings. You have to go through multiple ego deaths. But most of all, you just need to love yourself no matter what. You don't have a job. Do you still love yourself? You lost all your friends. Do you still love yourself? Someone cheated on you, someone broke up with you. Do you still love yourself? You went through a traumatic event. Do you still love yourself? Someone traumatized you by treating you so poorly. Do you still love yourself? A guy deceived you, tricked you, slept with you, and then left you. Do you still love yourself? You made the biggest mistake of your entire life. Do you still love yourself, though? Do you still believe that you're deserving of what you want? And loving yourself means standing up for yourself. Loving yourself means accepting yourself. Loving yourself means forgiving yourself. Loving yourself means that you're still going to go after what you want because you know you deserve it, despite everything. Self-love and self-worth go hand in hand. I truly do think that, like, love and peace within yourself is what can get you to worth and power. Because without your own self-love, without inner peace within yourself and your past and who you are and your mistakes, you can't elevate. You can't get to self-worth and power. You need to first do self-love and forgiveness and acceptance. That's the trick. Work on yourself. It pays off.
Okay. So, there was a couple of things like, whenever she was listing off, like, oh, like this, so like you, like this happened, do you still love yourself? This happened, do you still love yourself? This, do you still love yourself? And I think that's one of the main keys, is because that no matter what, well, first, healing and the self-worth, self-love journey, like I say, I don't think anything is linear. Like grief, like healing, like any of that, nothing is linear. It's like a web. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's here, sometimes it's all the way over here, sometimes it's here, and here, and here, and here, and here. And sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like a cycle, and sometimes it's just a big wavy line intersectioning and just going through the motions. That's life, I think. Life, we're going to experience ups and downs. And the point is that if you have self-love, if you have self-worth, then you're going to be able to conquer anything. You're going to be able to get through it. You're not going to take any hits to your self-esteem because you know that you're worth it. You know what your worth is. You know that you are worthy of love and goodness and grace. And so if anything bad does happen, then you know you've got it. You know that doesn't mean that you're a complete and utter failure. You know that doesn't make you a horrible person just because you failed, because that's what we do sometimes. Everybody has failed at least once at something in their life, at least once. Don't let them lie to you. And there was something else, but I was so into it. Oh, yeah. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I always circle back to this. It makes sense. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a triangle, but it doesn't necessarily have to go in this order either. It is broken down into like 4 major foundations, and then there's the top, self-actualization. It looks something like this, if you don't know. That it's not the Illuminati, trust me. There's not even words, but I'm trying to explain it. The bottom level of the hierarchy of needs is like your physiological needs. These are your basic, like, are you eating? Are you drinking water? Are you staying hydrated? Are you physically active? And then you move, whenever you move up, once those needs are met, then you move up. And this one, I don't remember exactly, but I know that there's some that has to do with like self-love, like love and validation, things like that. And then you move up and it's another something like that. And then you move up and blah, blah, blah. And then once you have all of those needs met, then you have the top, the pinnacle, which is self-actualization. Now, what is self-actualization? Self-actualization is whenever you can actually focus on your passions and your dreams and your, everything that you really, really aspire to do with your life. That's the point whenever you start working on all of those. Now, there's a lot of controversy behind the hierarchy of needs, because a lot of people are like, so you're saying that I can't work on the needs at the 3rd level if I don't accomplish and complete all of the needs on the levels below that? That's not what it's saying, actually. Like, that's just a way of explaining the hierarchy of needs. Now, the way I see it is that the first 4 foundational needs that you need before you reach self-actualization, what I believe is that you need to have a comprehension. You need to be able to comprehend and understand what those 4 needs take, what it takes to keep those needs satiated. Because sometimes your routines will need to change. Sometimes the proportions of the focus that you place on certain aspects of your life will need to change, because we change. So, it's possible that sometimes, even if you make it all the way to the top of self-actualization and you're working on your deepest passions and you're living the life that you've always wanted to live because you're finally doing the dreams that you've always wanted to do, sometimes when you reach that, one of these things can fall behind a little bit. And it's okay to step out of that and take care of those needs. So, because at least you're at the point where you can understand it and you know what you have to do. You know that you can just go back to it, take care of that need real quick. And guess what? Now you can go back to focusing on your passions and your hobbies and the things that you want to do with your life. So, the hierarchy of needs, like I said, can be controversial just because a lot of people take it as a linear fashion. Nothing that I do, nothing that I actually believe in is actually very linear. I don't believe anything is linear. I don't think that there's a specific order that you have to do anything in. However, I do believe that we need to have an all-encompassing view of all of our needs and understand what it takes to keep them satisfied so that we can continue to strive to be the best that we can be. Anyways, I think that is an excellent conclusion to episode 11. And yeah, I don't know what kind of topic we're going to do for the last episode next week, but I guess we will see. So with that being said, I think anybody who has stopped in to check out the second to last episode of Psych Student Reacts, and I hope to see you for the last episode, season finale, or series finale. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll see you all next Monday.